I want to check first to make sure that everyone can hear me. If you can hear me, please let me know with a little note in the chat box, please. My name is Mary Frentress. I am a financial aid coordinator here at Drake University. And this is a prep talk, which is a little chat regarding some questions you might have on the FAFSA. Also with me here is Chris Ditter. She is my colleague, and she can also answer questions via the chat box. And also we have Evan from admissions, and he can answer admissions questions. If you would have a problem with prep talk while I'm presenting, put a note in the chat box and we will go ahead and Evan can help you out with that then. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. It looks like pretty much everyone can hear, so I'm going to get started. The first thing we want to talk is why you should fill out the FAFSA. The FAFSA is a one-stop shop kind of in how you receive financial aid. It awards federal aid, things like the Pell Grant, subsidized student loans, federal work study, and things like that. And if you happen to be an Iowa resident, it also applies you to all the Iowa aid, like the Iowa tuition grant. Drake also uses the FAFSA to help awarding some institutional aid. Even if you think you may not qualify for anything on the FAFSA, you should still use it because every family that applies will qualify for an unsubsidized student loan. And for a freshman, that is $5,500 for the first year. The types of aid that are awarded through the FAFSA will be different from each school. Public schools will be different from private schools, and even private schools will be different between each other. But so that's going to make a lot. And but every financial aid package is going to be different. So you should just understand that they're not going to be a cookie cutter of any sort. What we're going to talk about tonight is some of the problem areas that I've encountered when I review FAFSAs. We're going to talk a little bit about the FAFSA on the web worksheet, which is really more of a tool you can use, how to determine your dependency status, different types of marital status and how you should file for those, using the data retrieval tool, entering your financial information, and what to expect after you file. This is an example of the FAFSA on the web worksheet. This is a tool you can use for completing the FAFSA. It is available at the website or the address listed below right here. And if you get that and print that out, you can fill it out and it will kind of walk you through the FAFSA. It's just kind of a nice little tool to use that will help you have all the information around that you need to file the FAFSA. We're going to talk now a little bit about dependency, how you determine dependency information. And there are basically the FAFSA, for the FAFSA, the dependency issue is considered differently than it is for the income tax purposes. There are 5 criteria that are used for the FAFSA. And if you answer yes to any of them, then you would be independent. The criteria are being 24 prior to the first of the year, being married, being a graduate student, having children or other dependents that you provide over half the support and live with you for over half the year, and being an active duty military or a veteran. Those are asked in the first 7 questions on this page, that the screenshot we see here. And if you answer yes to any of those, you are an independent student and you do not have to file your parents' information. If you answer no to all of them, then you are dependent and your parental information will be required. However, there are some special circumstances that may allow you to not provide parental data. Those are being a ward of the court, being an emancipated minor, being in a legal guardianship, or homelessness. Now, there are documentation. There is documentation required for this. For example, a legal guardianship is a specific court-ordered circumstance, and the court documents are required to show this. Your parents are never considered your legal guardians, and you cannot be your own legal guardian. If you're homeless or at risk of being homeless and you're self-supporting, you also need some sort of outside verification for that. Ultimately, if you feel you cannot provide parental data for any of these reasons, you should contact our office and someone here can help you out with that. And I will provide a number later on that you can call for that. Okay, now we're going to talk about marital status. How do you determine your or your parents' marital status? Marital status is always as of the date you file the FAFSA, and it should indicate the current marital status of you or your parents. The different selections are never married, married or separated, or excuse me, married or remarried, separated or divorced, and being a widow or a widower. Parents are only considered separated if they are legally separated or if they are living in separate housing and living separate lives. There was a change in the 2014-15 in how unmarried parents with biological or adopted children living together are reported, and now they have to report together. So if the biological or adopted parents of a student are not married but living together, both incomes must be included on the FAFSA. Now, I understand that a really big question that a lot of students and parents have is how to determine which divorced parent should file the FAFSA with the student. And the easiest way to do that is to first determine if in the last year there was one parent that the student lived with more than the other. If that was equal, then you go to the parent who provided the most support over the last year. If that's the same, and I should go back a little bit with that support, that is not necessarily just court-ordered support, that's any support. And generally speaking, if you look at who spent the most, who financially supported the student the most, one parent will come out as spending more. So go with that. If you still don't think you can find it from that, you can go back to previous years trying to find one of those that applies. But if you're really having a hard time, call our office and we will help you figure that out. The last thing I want to mention about this is that if your parents are divorced and the parent that is providing parental data has remarried, that marital status should be married and remarried, and the step parent's income should be included on the FAFSA. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the IRS data retrieval tool. The data retrieval tool is a function that allows you to securely and accurately transfer the required tax information directly from the IRS into your FAFSA. If it's possible, we really like you to use the data retrieval tool because you're less likely to be selected for verification if you do, and I'll talk a little bit about verification later. The data retrieval tool opened for use in the 2015-2016 FAFSA today. So as of today, you can access this. There is criteria in order to be able to use it. First of all, you had to have filed, and you have to have filed within, or at least 2 to 3 weeks ago, because it takes a little bit for the IRS to process your taxes. You have to file a single, head of household, or joint. The FAFSA, the data retrieval tool cannot pull in 2 separate tax returns. Head of household is a specific filing status for single parents, and if you're married, you cannot use that filing status. In addition, you cannot have an amended tax return in order to use the data retrieval tool. That means you filed a 1040-X. In addition, you also have to have filed a U.S. tax return. We cannot pull information from a foreign or from even Puerto Rico's tax system. So when you go to the IRS website from the FAFSA to do the data retrieval tool, you'll get this page. And this top part is pre-filled out based on your own responses. And then the lower part, you have to fill this out in order to make sure you're the right person. The street address on this, which is this line right here, must be filled out exactly as it is on the 2014 federal tax return. So you should have a copy handy. You can opt to not link to the FAFSA right here and return, or not link to the data retrieval tool and return to the FAFSA right here and just resume where you left off on the FAFSA. But if you get this far, you should really just click submit and try to download the information. When you get over to the IRS website and you actually get your information, you will get a form that looks like this, and all of this right here will be filled out with the information that will be transferred over. In this bottom section, you can choose to print this off for your records if you like, but then you have the choice of either to transfer the information, click this box here and transfer it. If you choose not to, you can click this box and do not transfer, and that will take you back. But if you're this far, you should really just transfer it because you're where you're supposed to be. After you transfer to the FAFSA, it will come back to this page and you'll get a little message saying that it was successfully transferred. You'll also know that there are several lines that say transferred from the IRS. Anything that says transferred from the IRS, you do not want to change. Doing so will set a flag in your FAFSA, and then I will get it and I'll have to look it over carefully. So anything that's been transferred by the IRS, you don't want to change. The only exception to that is it will ask you, if you are married filing jointly, to split out your income. And you do that with your W-2s or however you determine the income that you put on the FAFSA. Just a couple other things about entering your tax information. Although using the data retrieval tool is preferred, you may enter the tax information manually without using that. But again, families using the data retrieval tool are less likely to be chosen for verification. The line numbers are provided on the FAFSA if you are using the completed tax form. If you happen to be filing for an extension or just haven't got your taxes done yet, you can use estimates of the tax information if you haven't filed, but you will need to return an update with the final information, and understand that that can affect your financial aid if you change those amounts later. In addition, after you enter the tax information, there's a section called Additional Financial Information and Untaxed Income. Make sure you read over those carefully to find anything that applies to you on there. On every page of the FAFSA, on the right-hand side, there is a helps and hints box that will give you more information about the individual questions that can help you out. Don't forget to put child support paid or received if that is applicable to you. Another thing in the additional financial information I want to touch on quickly is reporting grant and scholarship aid. This is something that won't affect a lot of freshmen, but it's just important to know just in case. For undergraduate students, grants and scholarships are only taxable for amounts over tuition and fees. And they are only reportable on the FAFSA if they are taxable and included on the tax return. For graduate students, grants and scholarships are 100% taxable and reportable only if included on a tax return. So if you do not file taxes as a graduate student, you cannot report any scholarships and grants. For parents, it's important to note that the only amount that should go in their scholarships or grants are things that are for the parents themselves. No student information should go in this parent grant and scholarship portion. And in addition, just like everyone else's, they only can report them if they are reported on their taxes. Now we're going to look a little bit at reporting the assets. You want to enter the total of cash, savings, and checking as of the date you file the FAFSA. The FAFSA is designed to be a financial snapshot of a family's financial position. So balances prior to the date you file and after the date you file are really irrelevant. The amount will not change if you make subsequent corrections for any reason. For example, let's say you know that your parents are getting a $30,000 bonus on March 1st. If they file in February, they do not have to report that on the FAFSA, even if they go back in April or some other time and make a correction. But similarly, if you file and you have a large chunk of savings and you spend some of that down, you cannot ever go back and change that. So timing is everything on reporting your assets on the FAFSA. Dealing with investment, the net worth of the parents' or students' current investments is the amount left over after deducting the debt from the value of investments. The investments include trust funds, UGMA and UTMA accounts, money market funds, mutual funds, certificates of deposit, stocks, stock options, bonds, other security, installment and land sale contracts, and real estate. However, you do not have to include the parent's home in this amount. Parent's home is never included on the FAFSA. Now we're going to talk a little about investment farms and businesses. This, in addition, also have to enter the net worth on the day the FAFSA is filed. However, business value does not include the value of small businesses that students or parents own and control at more than 50% and that has 100 or fewer full-time or full-time equivalent employees. So essentially, if you have fewer than 100 employees, you don't have to include that amount. The investment farm does not have to be included if your family live on and operate it. So if you're a student and your parents live on and operate a family farm, they do not have to include this amount. A little caveat for the students on reporting untaxed income. Students must claim money that is received or paid on his or her behalf that is not reported elsewhere. This includes money from a parent whose financial information is not reported on the FAFSA and that is not a part of legal child support. And it also includes 529 distributions that are owned by someone other than the student or the parents. So for example, let's say that grandma is paying Billy's cell phone bill at $50 every month. You need to figure out how much that is. That's $600 per year, and that would have to be reported on the FAFSA. So things like that are reported under untaxed income. Now, those are the main things that I find that there are problems with. I go over a lot of the FAFSAs here at Drake, and these are the things that I found a lot of problems with. At this point now, we're ready to sign and submit. And what you do here is, here's the student signature is required first. They'll have to enter their PIN if unless they've entered it prior to this, accept the terms and agreements, and then we can move down to the parents section. The parents as well have to fill it out as required, either apply for a PIN or sign with their PIN. If you don't want to use PINs, you can print out a form to fill out and sign and send in. It will take longer for your FAFSA to be processed, 2 or 3 weeks as opposed to 2 or 3 days by the government. Drake won't process theirs until starting in March, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But when you get to the very bottom, you want to submit my FAFSA now if you're signing it right there. And I should note too, if you come back and make changes to your FAFSA in the future, you always need to make sure you submit it. It will not be accepted until you come back and sign and submit each time that you make any changes. So once you sign and submit, you should get a confirmation page loading. If you do not see a confirmation page, you have not submitted your FAFSA. The confirmation page will have information regarding what will happen next. It also will include your expected family contribution and possible federal benefits that might be available for you. Afterwards, then the FAFSA will be processed and the information will be sent to all the colleges you selected on your FAFSA. It's possible that your file may be selected by the Department of Education for a process called verification. If so, our office will require a few more steps and some more information to complete your awarding. We cannot award or disperse any federal or state funds without this information and verification being complete. So completing these steps as soon as possible is very important. After March 1st and or after Drake receives your FAFSA and after you are admitted to Drake, our office will review the information and then award a financial aid package for you based on this information. We begin by awarding new students and then returning students in the order of when the FAFSA was filed. Now, we've talked some about the FAFSA information, and of course, that's not the only part of the financial aid process that you might need some help with. Awarding also has a lot of its own problems, and we have people in our office that can also help you with that. As you go through this process, you'll see different financial aid packages from all the schools you're looking at. And I know that selecting a college is not just necessarily financial, it's also an emotional decision as well. You should remember that there are things that the numbers don't show and maybe things that you don't necessarily think about when you see that final number. There's a lot of numbers that will be thrown at you. For example, the four-year graduation rate. Drake has a 94% four-year graduation rate, meaning 94% of Drake graduates do so in 4 years. When you look at other colleges that may have a lower rate, consider the net cost over 4 years versus 4.5 or 5 years. In addition, you might even also think about the extra 6 months to a year you'll have working to earn money as opposed to paying someone for going to more classes. So the overall investment is something that you really need to think about, and what you're getting and is the outcome that you're expecting is what you're receiving. Drake is big enough to allow many opportunities for you, but small enough for some personal attention. Really, thank you for listening, and I know you've been asking questions, and we'll continue to answer some, and I will answer some here via the chat. I know that the FAFSA can be intimidating. You know, we're here to help. There's our office number right here. If there's something you don't feel comfortable typing out in the chat box, you can always call that number. You can leave messages anytime. Someone will get back to you, I promise. You can call us 8 to 4:30 any day, and someone will answer your question right away. Okay. I'm going to take a look here and see what questions we have.
Yes, 401ks and 529.
Okay. Okay. Do you want me to do it? Okay. Okay. I guess there's some questions about 401ks. 401ks are retirement income, retirement accounts, and you do not have to report those. Those are considered retirement accounts. The 529s are reportable, and they should be reported by who is the owner, right?
Not the 401, they do the untaxed portion.
If they have. Yeah, it's not an asset. Yeah, your 401k is not an asset. If you were to get any distributions from it, that could be taxable, and that's something you'd want to call our office about if you had some distributions for it. The 529 accounts are taxable as an investment by who is the owner of the account. The distributions would be taxable only if they are not owned, or excuse me, would be included only if they are not owned by you, because you're already, if it's owned by a student or parent, you're already counting it in the FAFSA. Okay. All right, let's see here. For the 529s, if they are, you go by who owns the account. If a parent owns a 529s, then they should be reported in the parental information. If the student owns the 529s, it should be reported in the student amount. If the 529 is reported by a grandparent, then you don't have to report that on the FAFSA if they're not but any disbursements going to the student have to be reported in that untaxed income for the student in the year it was dispersed. So if your student's a freshman and the grandparent has a 529 and it's dispersed in the fall, that amount in the fall would have to go on next year's FAFSA. Yeah, parents' homes are not included on the FAFSA. Rental properties are included in your assets of investments. Here's a little part on the 529s and money received or paid on your behalf. That includes distributions to the student from a 529 plan that is owned by someone other than you or your parents, such as grandparents, aunts, uncles, and non-custodial parents. And you must include these distribution amounts. Okay. Let's see here. I'm going to back up a little bit. Alex, about the state pension for retirement, that would be retirement, and you don't have to report anything that's being held for your retirement. You and Evan, yes, you can save a FAFSA in process and return to it later. It'll ask for a password, and so you can go back into it as many times as you need to before you submit it. That's not any kind of a problem. Claire, if you have the farmland and you're not living on it, it has to be reported as an asset then. So that would be any type of, we're subtracting out any debt that is on it. Isaiah, it could affect, having a 529 could affect your federal grants, but it's impossible to say without knowing more details about it. And but that's generally it could, depending on who owns it and how much it is worth. Warren, I'm not 100% sure about, okay, well, yes. Okay, an investment property, yes, you can. The investment properties is just like any other kind of investment. If there is a debt on it, you should remove the debt out of the current value and then give us a net value for it. Does that answer your question? Okay, let's see. If you have to make a change to ensure your parent's home is excluded, that's not a problem. You can log on to the FAFSA and make that change. That shouldn't be an issue. I'm not as familiar with the CSS profile on what. Okay. We don't require that, so we just require the FAFSA. So I'm not really that up on what the CSS profile is. Okay, is there a way to document if parents expect a significant income decrease in 2015? You can discuss with someone in our office if you think there's going to be a significant decrease, and they can make a determination if they can make any kind of a adjustment for that. But it's done on a case-by-case basis, and I don't handle those in my office. You'd need to call someone in our office and discuss what you would need to do to qualify for that. Okay. Let's see. Is there a particular reason you don't report liabilities on the FAFSA? The liabilities are taken into consideration for investments, but no other liability is taken into account for that. I don't really make the rules on that. That comes from the Department of Ed, so I can't answer the reason for why they don't, but that's just the way it is. Okay, Rachel, if I file my taxes as married filing separately, if you file your taxes as married filing separately, and you still have to file both parents' income. If you are divorced from your student's other biological parent, then you have to include your current partner's income or taxes information in it. The FAFSA, Lindy, does the FAFSA take into account if one of the parents are in college? No, you cannot include any parent in college on the FAFSA, only other students that are, other dependents that are on the FAFSA. Okay, this says in the pamphlet we just received, you may get more grants depending on when you file the FAFSA. There are some priority dates for certain places. Drake's priority deadline is March 1st. That is where you were guaranteed Drake funds. Federal funds are based a little bit differently. For the Iowa tuition grant, if you're an Iowa student, it's June 30th. And there is no real cutoff for federal aid, but it's always better to ask for it earlier rather than later. The sooner you get things in, the sooner that we can get everything organized and coordinated that you would have to get you a good package. You can also look at the loans and things like that when you have. So there's not really one specific, there's not, there's lots of different dates, but the sooner you get your FAFSA in, the better, because then we're able to help you out a little bit easier. McKenna, if you don't file a FAFSA, you will still get merit aid from Drake. But if you want anything else, you cannot get that. If you're going to look at private loans or federal loans, you can't get any of those types of things unless you file the FAFSA. So it is kind of your decision. It's usually best if you file it just to see, because you never know what you might need. Yes, Bailey, if you need to have the already completed designated on the IRS, on the FAFSA, to get the IRS data retrieval tool button to appear, in addition to those other things that I mentioned that you filed over 2 or 3 weeks ago, that it's not a foreign tax return and things like that. You have to answer all those questions correctly in order to have the data retrieval tool button appear for you. I have an incoming freshman student, and my oldest will be in her first year of grad school. Okay, so if you have a grad student, and the determination is if you are still providing over half of their support. So if your grad student is living alone and not really a part of your household anymore, then you cannot include them. But if your grad student is still living at home, you're still providing over half their support, then you can include them on the FAFSA as a dependent and list that they are in college. Okay, let's see. Okay, Claire, when you file the FAFSA, we're filing off of the 2014 taxes. So if you mean that you're filing off of 2013, then yes, you need to go back in and make the correction of 2014. If you're talking about there's going to be a difference between 2014 and 2015, that's a little bit different because you're basing things on what you think. So you need to talk with someone in our office about that. But if it's just between 13 and 14, you should really wait and use 14, and because that's the one that is required currently for the FAFSA. Ryan, if your parents file an extension, that's not really a problem. You can use the estimated information, and we just ask that when they file the FAFSA later in the year that they come back in and change it into the correct information. If you are selected for verification, there are ways we can do that as well with the extension too. Marcus, if you submitted the FAFSA in January with an estimated taxes and you put Drake down as a college, yes, you will receive, we will receive that information, but you should go back when you have finished your taxes and make the corrections. If you can do it before March 1st, that's great, because we will get that updated one, and then we can use that one to give you the most accurate financial aid package. If you have a financial hardship, you need to talk to someone in our office, and they can tell you what you need to do. You should not change anything that in the asset department without talking with someone in our office, because if we just get it, we think you just changed it, and we can't accept that. You need to talk with someone in our office before making any changes like that. If you haven't submitted, you can always put down what is current, but if you think it's going to be something that's going to affect you in the future, talk to someone in our office. Social Security is, I think, indicated in there where you need to, on the FAFSA, where you need to file it. Chris is going to look that up really quick for me, and I will get back to you on that one in a second. Oh, wait, here he is. Okay, let's see. Other untaxed income. Let me look here. Do not include untaxed Social Security benefits, supplementary security income. So if you're on Social Security, you don't need to include that if it's untaxed. Yeah, 529s are reported based on who is the owner. So if you as a parent own all the 529s, you need to report them in your information. If the students own them, they should report on each of the students' FAFSAs and their information. For a student who must report parental information, the accounts reported as parental investments, including all accounts owned by the student and all accounts owned by the parents for any member of the household. So yeah, it has to go to the parent. And then also money received or paid on your behalf also includes distributions to you, the student or beneficiary, from a 529 plan that is owned by someone other than you or your parents, such as grandparents, aunts, uncles, and non-custodial parents. You must include these distribution amounts in question 45 of the FAFSA. Isaiah, if your mom is self-employed and waits for your taxes to be done, she should try to use some sort of an estimation until they are done. She can use her 2013 taxes if that's something. If she thinks she knows it's going to be a little different, she can make a little changes. And then when she does file her taxes, she should go back in and make the changes. Now, if there's a huge difference, it can make a difference in your financial aid. So it's really important that they try to make it as accurate as possible, though I know that's really hard for a lot of people. So you just kind of have to do your best sometimes. I would say it's usually better to overestimate income than underestimate it, because if you come back with less income or less adjusted gross income, you're likely to get more aid than have it taken away. Drake looks at the FAFSA as of when you file it. So and we won't start looking at them at all until after March 1st. So it doesn't really matter if you file before March 1st. We probably won't get to it until sometime in March or in April. So it's based on that time that you first file it. Okay, let's see here. What is the time frame between filing taxes and being able to retrieve the data from the IRS? When you retrieve the data from the IRS, it's usually about 2 weeks is what they're saying, but it kind of depends. It's a little faster right now because fewer people are filing. Closer to the 15th of April, it's a little bit longer, and then it slowly gets faster again. Only one parent needs to sign the FAFSA, so they both don't need a PIN. Generally speaking, just one will sign it, and they'll use their PIN, and they can use the same PIN every year. Christina, it says my daughter received Social Security for 2014 and 6 months in 2015. Social Security, if it's not untaxed, is not reportable, so you don't have to worry about reporting that. Okay, let's see here. Too far there. All right. Okay, Joseph, if you have 2 different students going to 2 different schools, you need to file 2 different FAFSAs. Each student needs to have their own FAFSA. So we'd file one for one student and another for the other one. There is a box on the FAFSA that after you fill one out, it will ask if you want to fill out another one for another student. You click that box and it will transfer all the parental information into that new one. So you only have to put in the student information. Let's see here. Let's see. Is that, am I at the bottom? Oh, I'm moving it here. Okay, let's see. Let me look here. Okay. Oh, Alex, yeah. Okay, Alex Russell. My parents are divorced and I'm solely supported by my mother. Do I have to list my father as parent too if he does not live with us and provides no support? If your parents are divorced, you only have to provide one parent information, and that's generally the parent who you live with most or gives you the most support. So if your father is not involved, don't need to worry about reporting him. However, if your mother is remarried, your stepfather would have to be part of the equation. Okay, let's see. We will get, after March 1st is when we start processing the FAFSAs. So it will be after that date when we will send out the final financial aid packages or your financial aid package to look at. We generally start with the incoming freshmen that filed on January 1st and work there. So kind of base that on your when you might get it. I can say in the past, we would normally be up to date, meaning like I would be in end of March by about the end of March dealing with those FAFSAs. So that kind of gives you an idea with new students. After I'm up to date on the new students, I start with January 1st returning students and work to catch up on those, as well as keeping up to date on the returning students. So after March 1st is when you will first get your financial aid package. Darren, the IRS data retrieval tool will not pull 2013 into the 2015-16 FAFSA. If you have not completed your 2014 information, it will not allow you to transfer it at all. You'd have to say that you've filed and that you filed the right form and that all of those questions I went through earlier. Okay. If you're looking at when you are filing March 1st, that's just kind of a spot where we kind of like to choose to say have your FAFSA in by. That's kind of around the time we start looking at things for the people that have filed a while ago. So let's see. I don't know. I think I'm at the bottom. I think I've answered the questions. Okay. I will wait. I really thank you all for coming in. If you see that there's an email for you right there for financial aid. You send a question to that email and someone will get back to you. There's also our phone number that will also, you can also call if you have a question you want to talk with someone. Okay, it's the last call for questions. If you have anything else, please go ahead and type it in right now and I'll try to get it answered quickly here before we sign off. You guys have asked some really great questions, and I really hope that you consider Drake and call us if you have any questions. I mean, anything at all about financial aid, we can help you, seriously. How much snow do you have? A lot. Like, I think my deck was 10.5 inches, so welcome to Iowa. No, that's not actually very often that we get that much snow, but okay. All right. Thank you again all for coming. I really enjoyed presenting tonight. Give me a call, ask for me. I'll be happy to help you with FAFSA questions anytime.